awesome situations. So moving on from that, we start doing how to get uphills properly, and we use an exercise called momentum. If Neil was to ride along here, imagine that's a muddy bank, and open the throttle here, all the bike's going to do is wheel spin. So you're going to try and use a bit of momentum to get out the bank. Neil, give us a little demo.
What, about getting stuck on the hill? Momentum is really important, and actually riding in a straight line and having enough drive at the bottom to be able to get up to the hill under control. Then you can react to what's next, whether it be a left, right, or in this case, turn around on yourself or drop it as you go. So yeah, you don't want to come up like a motocrosser and launch it, you want to be under control, up nicely. So enough momentum to get over the obstacle and at the top, under control.
Just to hammer the point home now, what?
Just having a look around the Norden, new Husqvarna. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, you could tell it is essentially just a KTM with a new skirt on it. You know, is that something to get excited about? Not overly excited myself. Got to be honest. I had a TR650 back when BMW owned Husqvarna briefly in around 2012. And that was kind of a really magic bike. Husqvarna were really giving free rein to get more power out of the single-cylinder G650 engine. Same with the Norden, you know, they're allowed to get more power out of the F800 GS engine. And those two bikes were really kind of exciting, different, brave, dynamic. And then everything went downhill, and now we've got Husqvarnas, which are essentially KTMs in a new dress. So, I mean, it's nice. It's a nice bike, but is it better than a 2-year-old KTM 790? Not by much. So yeah. Oh well. Hello. Just getting some custom earplugs made at plugs. With the other. If you're not wearing earplugs, I would definitely recommend it. Because tinnitus in the left ear caused by not wearing earplugs for the last 10 years. The first 10 years. Quite a thing there. So just wondering, passing at best value, 45 quid, is that right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, some others 100 and odd quid. Ouch. Oh, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay, so we're just looking at the interlaying, which is Cooperb's attempt to create a sort of a Himalayan style adventure bike based on the 650 Interceptor. So it's basically an Interceptor chassis engine, basically a Interceptor with a Himalayan front end and a 19-inch front wheel and a 18-inch rear wheel, and then a 2-into-1 exhaust. He's also gone to town, and so he's got an additional tank. So essentially he's took 2 Himalayan tanks and had them stitched together to make a bigger enlarged tank, and then obviously new shocks on the rear, giving luggage, new seat. So Ian's basically bought it just to build it for himself really, and then just see if there's any demand in a sort of a Himalayan styled Interceptor. So bit of a talking point. Looks nice. Be interesting to see what Royal Enfield do themselves with a 650 engine, whether they do stick it in a Himalayan style bike or not. Okay, just looking at the Tiger 1200, it says it's a prototype, so it's a new Explorer. There's been a lot made about this, about the weight saving, which I think is around 20-30 kilos lighter than the old one. If anybody's ridden the old one, they'll know it's a top heavy old lump, quite a heavy bike, and it doesn't carry its weight well. So it'd be interesting to see if they've radically altered this. It definitely looks more slender, slimmer, more like a 900 than it does the old 1200. Swing arm, very interesting. Yeah, definitely looks less intimidating than the old one. As I say, whether it's transformative in the way it rides, everyone's saying it will be. Is that a 21-inch? It looks like a 21-inch front as well. So, yeah, a lot of differences going on there. Okay, new Tiger Sport 660. Interesting, what caught my eye? Price. Just looking for specs on it, but we don't seem to have any specs. But that looks a nice Tracer alternative, right badge and at a good price. I think that will do pretty well. It'll be interesting to see if they use that engine in an adventure style bike. So, you know, I guess essentially do what they've done with the Tracer 700 to turn it into the Tenere 700. Because I guess it's starting from the same place with a chassis and an engine. And then the work involved in turning it into an adventure bike. I mean, for me, that would make a better base for an adventure bike, dual sport bike, than Tiger 1200 would. So let's see what happens. But it's nice, nicely styled, and I say good price, 8,450. So just on the CFMoto stand, just been talking to the chap. So it's the sort of 800 CF 800 model, which is CFMoto owns 65% of KTM. So it is a KTM 790 engine. Oh, sorry, bud. And when you look around it, the quality is very good. Price-wise, it's talking about 8.5, 9 grand. Which, when you look at that Norden for 13 grand, you start to see where there's a gap in the market for manufacturers to come in below mainstream bikes. And what's interesting, that if that is fundamentally a KTM engine, what are you getting less than what's on a KTM for 12 or 13 grand? And that's the thing. Some nice little touches on it as well. Whoa. I like the fact you've got the 12 volt charger that side, and then you've got double USB that side. Yeah, interesting. Just walk away from the stand. My problem with it is, like all these Chinese bikes, is that it's 3,000 mile service intervals. The chap on the stand didn't seem to think that was a problem, but I think it is. You know, consciously in people's minds, 3,000 is just too little, when all the mainstream big brands are doing 6,000, 8,000 mile service intervals. And so, you know, if you had to, it was a sticking point with the Himalayan, but that was such a cheap basic engine, you could get away with not worrying about it. But if you're spending 9 grand on a bike and then you have to take it into dealer every 3,000 miles, it's not the right thing. So I think they need to account for that and try and make it better. Make it, even if it's 5,000 miles or 4,500 miles, just do something, because at the minute for me it's a sticking point. So we'll see. Let's see what Errol's got. Few bits and bobs, but there are lots of new brands here. UVM, don't know who they are, and their main selling point is price. I think that is a Kawasaki Versys 650 engine that seems to be going in a lot of bikes at the minute. This is a UK built bike, so it's Bolton based. DOT stands for devoid of trouble, so it's a bike that was obviously around. These are the earlier bikes, so a classic British brand that obviously went by the wayside and probably has had its name bought. I don't know the current history and how it's come about, but obviously they've set up as a as a British producer again, I guess, in the same vein as CCM. I don't know too much about him. It's sort of all unveiled just before this show, but looking at it, I think that's going to be that Kawasaki derived or blueprinted engine, and handmade frame. Price, I think, is, I hear whispers of about 15,000, so slightly more premium price than a Spitfire CCM, but a bit more cubic capacity, a bit more CC. Don't know, it's interesting. There's certainly a market for this sort of stuff, and I quite like the yellow frame. There's a red one over there as well. It catches my eye because Dot, or which is short for Dorothy, is the name of Dorothy's speed shop, so maybe I need to get one down at the speed shop. Dot comes home, so yeah, watch this space. So just on the Zero stand, just looking at the FX, which is a bike that's been on my radar for a little bit. It's the electric sort of dual sport, 21-inch front wheeled bike, A2 class, so less than 47 brake horsepower. Price, I think about 12,000, brand new. It's something I'd love to add to the A2 fleet, and I've had people interested in it. The problem with it is it's got a 60-mile range, and for me that's just a little bit too short to be usable on the route that I do. And so, correlating that with the customer's perspective, 60 miles does not afford you a lot of adventure. I love the idea of it, and everything I read says it's a pretty good bike, and the concept is good. But if you can only do 60 miles on it, it's no good for a lot of things other than curiosity. And that's a shame, because I think for green laning, certainly on the sort of tourist area that I go into, to have a quiet, silent bike would be a great thing, would be a good asset, and I think it would soften the blow of motorcycles passing through, a tourist environment. So if they could come up with a bike with a 120-mile range, now we're talking. But as it is, it's a curiosity. Does it say range on that? See, combined range 54 miles. 54 miles. I would have to find a cafe out by Lynmouth to plug it in and charge it. It's a shame. It's a shame. Two-stroke. Made in England by Chris over there, who used to be at CCM and designed the Spitfire and the GP450. So he went off and set up on his own. And this, I believe, the engine's from a Dutch company who designed and built this two-stroke engine. And he's obviously crafted the frame and everything else to go with it. Are you alright? Very nice. Yes, very nice. So that's it, end of the NEC, just heading home on the 500X back to North Devon. Pretty good show actually. It's good to be out and again, good to see bikes being sat on and getting excited about. There's a few omissions. Piaggio weren't there, so no Touareg, no new Moto Guzzi, no Moto Morini either, which was a bit of a shame. So a few big bikes missing that I was keen to see. But I think that's largely because EICMA was too recent for them to be here as well. That's what I gather anyway. But attendance was down a little bit. There wasn't as many small stall holders, and I mean, given the factor 3x3 is $3,500, I'm not surprised given current climate that there weren't as many of the small traders. But still a good show, still worth coming to, and it's just good to mingle, and chat by it. So yeah. have a good one. Hope there was something of interest in that lineup of buys. Take it easy. Cheers. Hi there. I'm just sat here editing that video, and what came to mind is that when you think about it, there's absolutely nothing really of excitement from any of the established brands. Yamaha weren't there. Kawasaki have got nothing but Versys. Suzuki have got nothing but V-Stroms. Honda have, got a bit, Africa Twin, CB500X, but there's still gaps in their range. BMW obviously is still trying to sell you expensive GS12s without any emphasis on any other size of adventure bike. Triumph got a bit of a mix going on, but the real excitement going forward, you can see it being the emerging brands coming out of China, who really don't seem to grasp what is needed to sell motorbikes to Western customers, i.e. brand building. So we're a funny old split, I think. The established brands are getting carried away with their price points, but not really doing anything to get particularly excited by, whereas the emerging brands from China are doing kind of exciting bikes, kind of interesting bikes, and they've certainly got some more to come, but they lack the background infrastructure and credibility to sell what they're building. So who will win going forward, not sure. So yeah, I'll just chuck this on the end, but it just caught my eye that there's nothing of excitement from those brands that we historically have all bought: Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha, BMW, etc., etc. Where are they? We need some bikes of interest, I think. Cheers.